Hey guys, today I want to talk about speed sensors on electric e-bikes. Basically, the state of the technology, at least this is 2023, is that all of these e-bikes have a speed sensor somewhere in the rear wheel area. And what that does is that allows the bike to tell how fast it's going. And the bike won't work if the speed sensor is not properly engaged or if the speed sensor is worn out. And it's very common for these speed sensors to wear out or to get broken or have some problem with them. And, if you have a code on your motor, I would encourage you to double check and just make sure the speed sensor is functioning. And I'm going to show you how I test the speed sensor on the motor. Probably not the only way to test it, but at least it's the way I do it. So with that, I'm going to get in and show you, what the speed sensor is, where it is on the bike, and how to test it. Okay, here in front of us, these are two speed sensors. This is sort of the part of the speed sensor mechanism that will be back in the wheel area of the bike. It connects onto the e-bike motor right here through this little adapter right here. They are varying lengths. This one is the exact same thing. It just has a longer wire on it. It has the same connector. So that's what a speed sensor looks like. Now, just to show you, this is a speed sensor on an e-bike, or that same speed sensor on an e-bike right here. As you can tell, the speed sensor is located back in the rear triangle. This speed sensor, the way it operates, this thing right here, the silver thing, is a magnet. And as the magnet passes over the speed sensor, the magnet will actually cause a connection to occur with the sensor, so the motor will know that the sensor has been connected. And then when the magnet passes beyond the speed sensor, the connection will be broken. So you have a series of opening and closing a connection has the wheels moving that allows the motor to tell that the bike the speed of the bike, depending on how fast it's opening and closing. Now this is a little bit dated. Most speed sensors now on newer bikes, it's located back in the rear hub area. This right here is the speed sensor on this bike. And the magnet is no longer attached on the spokes, but the magnet on this particular speed sensor is actually right here, and it's connected to the part of the disc rotor, so that as that magnet is, or as the wheel is spinning, that magnet will pass over this speed sensor, and will do the same thing as this speed sensor. As the magnet passes over, the connection will be made, and then when the magnet moves away, the connection will be broken, and that opening and closing of the circuit, how rapidly that occurs, will allow the motor to determine how fast the bike's going. To test the speed sensor, you need a multimeter, and you need to have attached to the multimeter, I have alligator clips, but you need something that will allow you to make a connection. The multimeter is set to continuous here. You can see here, there's a little omega there. And in this particular case, the voltage really doesn't matter, but I have it on 500 volt there, 500 V. Now what will happen is, just so you understand how the multimeter works, as long as there's no connection, the multimeter will register a 1. But the minute there's a connection, the 1 will go away and a random series of numbers will appear on the multimeter, just like that. So that's how the multimeter is set up and it works. Now going to the speed sensor for a minute, we need to focus on the end of the speed sensor that connects to the motor. And if you look down in the speed sensor, it's hard to see here, but basically there's concentric circles with electrical connectors, and when that's pushed in, it will connect to the electronics of the motor. Now what I've done here is if you're looking down, sort of a top view of the speed sensor, which is what I've got right here, this is, if you're looking down on that connection, this is a top-down view of a Shimano speed sensor. And as you look down in that connection, I have highlighted in red and highlighted in blue the electric contact of that. So the blue, there's an electric contact inside the inside concentric circle, and the red is an electric contact on the outside circle. So that's how it's Now what I have here are 2 pins, okay? And what we're going to do, we're going to stick those pins right into the speed sensor so that the pins will be touching. One pin will be touching the red contact point but not touching the blue contact point, and the other pin will be touching the blue contact point without touching the red contact point. Now, the blue contact point is easy. When you push the pin in with the blue contact, it goes in there pretty firmly and attaches without any problem. However, on the red contact, it's hard to get a pin in there. And what I've done is I've cut a little piece of rubber. I don't know if you can see it here, but there's just a little piece of rubber. Okay, and what I'll do, I'll stuff that rubber in right in here on the outside part of the contact, and then that will allow me so that when I stick the pin will go right down here like this. The rubber will push the pin up against that red electric contact, and that way I'll have a pin up against the red contact, and I have a pin stuck in that will be on the blue contact, and then I will connect those pins using the alligator clips. So one alligator clip on each pin, and the alligator clips there will not be a connection, that they'll be separated. One alligator clip will be on one pin and one will be on the other. And in that case, because there's not a connection, the multimeter will read 1. Then I'll take a magnet, and this is a magnet. You can get any magnet. It doesn't need to be a big magnet, just a magnet. And then what I'll do is I will run the magnet over the speed sensor. And as the speed sensor detects the magnet, it will close the connection, and I will get a reading on the multimeter. Okay, once you have it all hooked up to the multimeter, this is kind of what it looks like here. So once again, that's how I have the multimeter set up here. And those are the connections. Here is the speed sensor, and now here is the magnet. So when I run the magnet across the speed sensor, what you'll notice is that the multimeter goes from 1 to just sort of a random number. That means that the sensor is good, because what the sensor is doing, it's detecting the magnet signal and it's establishing a connection each time the magnet sensor goes over it. So as the magnet sensor goes away, the connection's broken, but as the magnet comes toward it or goes over it, the connection is made, and that means that the speed sensor is working properly. Well, guys, that's how I test a speed sensor on an e-bike. I hope that was helpful to you, but it's not that complicated to do. And once again, these speed sensors do not have that great of a track record in terms of lasting a long time. They tend to wear out, even though that nothing's happened to them or anything, or that's been my experience. So if you have a problem with the motor, my recommendation would be, if it's possible, test the speed sensor. And if the speed sensor is not working properly, buy another sensor and put it on and see if that solves your problem. Anyway, I hope that gave you something to think about. And I'll see you guys at the top.